In this episode, I'll be talking through some recent makes. I started off with Simplicity 9479. I made View C, the pants, and the pattern's fabric suggestions include both woven and stretch woven fabrics. So I made my test pair out of a black stretch twill from my fabric collection. I initially wanted to make full-length pants, so I added a few inches to the pattern before I cut the fabric. The first image that I will share, the seams are just pinned. Unfortunately, I felt like the pants weren't long enough. The bottom of the pants that you're seeing in the picture is just a raw edge. There's no finished hem yet on them, so if I were to hem them, they would be even shorter. Outside of them not being long enough, the only other issue I had was the invisible side zipper that I inserted did not function properly. At first, I thought that the seam allowance was too bulky and I needed to cut away more of the seam allowance, which I did. But after a while, you can only cut away so much of the seam allowance before there isn't anything left to sew your parts together, which is where I was headed. But since it was just the test pair, I didn't worry about it. I figured that I would perfect it and do better on the next pair. So I made my final pair out of black stretch bengaline, and it has a very similar fiber content to the test pair. And I did add even more length to the pattern. I did much better on the zip. However, even though I added even more length to the pant legs, I still did not like the length of the pants once I completed them. So over the course of a few days, I debated on how to salvage those pants. I considered removing the leg width, so I pinned the back to see how they would look narrower. I considered different hem options. In the end, I decided to just crop the pants similar to the pattern's original design intention, but I added a cuff to mine because I thought that the hem looked unfinished without it. Next, I moved on to the jacket, so I made View B. I made a size 10, also in the stretch bengaline. The only thing that I will say about the construction of the jacket, there's a hidden button placket, so there's a lot of folding over and back and over and back to create that. And in the instructions, there is a line that is marked an interfacing line, but nowhere in the instructions does it talk about cutting interfacing for that. And I did not know whether that meant that I needed to cut interfacing for that piece or whether that strip of fabric, that line, was just denoting that that portion of the fabric was to simulate an interfacing strip. So I decided to do a buttonhole test. Because of the spandex content in the fabric, I decided that I liked the results with interfacing. So I decided to proceed in that manner and interface that strip. I'm satisfied with my results, with the exception that if I were to do that again, I would not extend the interfacing all the way up to the top of the neckline and the bottom of the hemline because I feel that it added too much bulk in those areas. Outside of that, I had no issues with the jacket. I do notice that the very top at the neckline, I don't know if you can see in the images, it does seem to stand out a bit, and I think that that might just be due to the thickness of the layers. And I have some very tiny black snaps that I'm considering maybe putting one on that area just to keep it flush. It is in line. When it lays flat, it is in line, so it's not misaligned. It just, there's a lot of layers of fabric there and it kind of stands out. After that, I moved on and made a couple of shirts. So I made Simplicity 2892. The Simplicity pattern is an out-of-print pattern. I made View A. I made mine out of a rayon challis. I had made two style arc woven dresses in the past, one out of a knit and one out of a challis. I wasn't wearing them, so I repurposed the fabric. This shirt has a two-piece sleeve. It has an outer piece and a lining piece. I just used the lining piece as the only sleeve piece. I made that in a size 10 as well. The other top that I made was New Look 6216, which is a knit pattern, and I made View C in a size 10. Not much to say about this. The fabric I used was a knit. It was repurposed fabric from a Style Arc Hope woven dress that I was not wearing, just like the floral shirt. Yeah, there's not much to say about this. I like the pattern. I just don't like sewing with knits. Yeah, I think that's everything. So thanks so much for your time. Take care. Bye.